What's going on? This is Big G from Ryders, and welcome to another episode of Testing Rides. Today, I'm going to be testing out the 2019 Nissan Altima 2.5 SL. Welcome to the 2019 Nissan Altima. All new for the 2019 model year. This Altima is bigger, more efficient, quicker. Yeah, kind of quicker. It's a little bit lighter, and it's a lot safer than the previous model because of all the safety and technology that has been applied to this new model. With the constant pressure that sedans are under now to sell nowadays, because a lot of people are buying SUVs, full-size sedans like this, well, technically it's a mid-size sedan, but I'm gonna call it a full-size sedan just because, like, most people don't get sedans bigger than this nowadays for the most part. With the constant competition of SUVs, Nissan had to do some different things to kind of make the Nissan Altima competitive still in the market, even with to sell alongside like the Nissan Rogue and the Nissan Murano, which are the SUVs that people are going to buy most of the time over the Altima. So they had to make this car so much bigger than the previous one before. Like the previous one was already a big car, but this is even bigger, and I've noticed that's the trend between the Camry, the new Accord, and now the new Altima. And this got bigger just like the rest of those. But one unique thing they did with the Altima is they made it available with all-wheel drive. So now you can get a pretty affordable car with all-wheel drive in the Nissan Altima, which I think is pretty cool. And now, unfortunately, the 3.5 VQ35 engine is gone. Now it is replaced with the 2-liter turbo. I think it's the variable compression turbocharged engine in these. But the car I have here behind me is the 2019 Nissan Altima 2.5 SL, and this comes with the same old inline 4-cylinder, making 181 horsepower and 178 foot-pounds of torque, which, you know, honestly, it's actually pretty good power and pretty good torque for this car. So this isn't the all-wheel drive one, this is just the plain front-wheel drive one, and it has the CVT, which is good. We'll talk about that on the driving portion. But this car does weigh about 3,300 pounds now. I mean, and it's a pretty big car to weigh 3,300 pounds. I think that's a pretty low number for how big this car is. I had a 2002 Nissan Maxima as my second car, and that weighed 3,200 pounds, and that was like the size of a Sentra. Now, a car this big can weigh 3,300 pounds. With that lightweight and that pretty efficient 4-cylinder engine, this car does get 28 in the city and 39 out on the highway, which is pretty cool. I think that sedans really need to fight to stay in that good fuel economy number, just because a lot of the times with the front-wheel drive SUVs, like the Nissan Rogue and things like that, they can get close to those fuel economy numbers. Not quite 40 on the highway, but they can get 30 plus on the highway, and that can kind of make it hard to decide whether you should buy the sedan or the SUV. But I can report this Altima gets excellent fuel economy. I did about a 200-mile round trip up to Portland and back here to Eugene, and I averaged probably about just like a little over 40 miles to the gallon. I think I burned like a quarter of a tank for full, which is not a whole lot of gas for 200 miles, you know what I mean? So there are now 5 trim levels of the 2019 Nissan Altima. There's the base S, there's the SV, the SR, the SL, which is the one I have here behind me, and there's the Platinum now. So this one behind me is the SL, and the SL is right below the top of the line model, so you get a lot of the good standard features on this vehicle you'll find on the Platinum, but you get it with a little bit smaller the price. So this one starts at about $31,000 or so, and that's the one that this is priced here like that. And for that $31,000 price point, you do get heated seats, heated steering wheel, you get navigation, you get the excellent Nissan Bose sound system. You get a sunroof. That stuff's all standard. But the one biggest thing that I like about this 2019 Altima is you get Nissan's Pro Pilot Assist, which is their adaptive cruise control system that can keep you in your lane, go around curves, and do stop and go traffic, which is pretty awesome that you can do that in a $31,000 car. And I'm going to demonstrate that on the driving portion of the video. But the last vehicle that I drove that had that feature was the $60,000 Volvo XC90. Now it's like that type of technology kind of trickled its way all the way down to your simple $30,000 mid-size sedan, and I think that's pretty excellent. One thing I gotta admit though with this 2019 Altima, if you just look at it, this is a very good looking car. That front looks so aggressive, the rear looks pretty nice, and just the whole entire design looks really sharp, and I'm glad that they did that with this new Altima. It looks just like kind of the current generation Maxima actually, but just like a little bit not as sharp as the Maxima. But I like it. The Altima doesn't need to be as sharp, but I'm glad they kind of took some of that design element from the Maxima and kind of applied it to the Altima, because even though I did like the previous generation Altima, I think the previous generation Altima was starting to age a little bit because it was looking really round, and with the other competitor cars like the Camry and the Accord being redesigned kind of over the last year or so, it was just time for the it was time for the Altima to get a little bit more Maxima to it. With all that said, let's go ahead and take a look around the 2019 Altima before we take a look at the interior and then go out on the road. All right, before we take a look at the inside of the 2019 Nissan Altima, let's go ahead and take a look around the outside here. So as you can see, the new Altima is very sharp design, has a very sharp design on it. Looks pretty aggressive, looks pretty mean, but it's not too angular Maxima-y. I think it looks pretty nice. I like this new front grille that they have here with that silver chrome line around there, but that will look pretty sick black, I'm not gonna lie. But as you can see on the front of the car, this now has like the Nissan E badge, because that's where like the adaptive cruise control and all those systems, kind of the sensor is right behind there, so that's why it kind of has a little bit bigger of a badge now on the front there. So continuing around, you take a look at these headlights. The headlights are a little bit more squinty than they were before, and they do have the LED daytime running lights here. Let me turn. It does have the LED daytime running lights here, and this car does have full LED headlights and fog lights, but it still has like your standard turn signals, which I think that, you know, if you're gonna do all that, you might as well do LED turn signals too. But that's just me. Walking around to the side here, you do have the 17-inch wheels. I think these are 215 section tires, which, you know, are kind of small for this car. I think the SR comes with the 19-inch wheels, and I think the 19-inch wheels probably one of the best looking wheel combos on this vehicle. Come around the side here, it has that nice mean like Maxima E character line. And let's go down to go around to the back, where it honestly looks a lot like the current generation Maxima from the back, down to the tail light design and kind of the little rear diffuser thing down in there at the bottom. I think it looks pretty awesome, and like even with the floating roof design. So I mean, Nissan had designed this car to kind of fit in with the other Nissan products, and I think this car does look good. I wish Nissan would have did LED tail lights for the SL model, just because this is kind of a higher trim level, but you know, you can't give everything away on the car. One thing that Nissan has started doing lately is they started giving remote start of their cars. So to remote start a Nissan, here is the key fob. Here's the key fob. You hit lock, and then press and hold the remote start button, and it starts on up. All right, let's go ahead and get in and see what the interior of the 2019 Nissan Altima 2.5 SL looks like. So since this is a Nissan, it does have the push button starter. They've been doing that for years, so all you do to unlock it is you hit the button on the door twice to unlock all the doors. And there it is, the inside of the 2019 Nissan Altima. All right, let's go ahead and hop in and see what it's looking like. All right, welcome to the inside of the 2019 Nissan Altima 2.5 SL. When you first hop into the interior of this car, you notice that everything is just a lot more modern and a lot nicer than the previous model, which makes sense. I mean, it's the new model of the car, but when I first got in the interior of this car, it kind of blew me away a little bit, because it is so much better than the previous one. It feels a lot like a Maxima in here. And like Nissans have always been like that, where, you know, the new Altima is always a lot like the previous Maxima, but I think this interior, they really outdid themselves on this one. There's a lot of soft touch materials up here on the dash, kind of where you rest your arms, nice and soft. I like this wood finish up here that goes across the entire dash here. I think that looks pretty nice. I do like the new like flat bottom style steering wheel. I think that looks pretty. I think that looks pretty nice. Like the rest of the Nissan products have this steering wheel, and I think the Altima is kind of one of the last ones to get it. But I really like it. All the buttons feel pretty nice over here, and I think it's a very well laid out steering wheel. Everything's pretty simple. You got your audio and your menu controls here, and then you got your cruise control and your voice control, phone control stuff there. And there is the Nissan Pro Pilot Assist button, and we will get into that when we go out on the road. A couple things I don't really like about the interior. I don't really like this fake carbon fiber stuff over here. I think that I would have been fine with this being like black or something like that, but you know, it ain't that horrible, but I just think it's a little cheesy. It doesn't really match the character of this interior. Also, like, I think some of the plastics here in the center are a little cheap, but this is a $30,000 car, so what'd you expect? So for the 2019 model year, the Nissan Altima does come standard with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on this nice infotainment screen, and this system works pretty good now. Nissan infotainment systems have been known to be very outdated for a long time, but I'm glad that Nissan put kind of some this has like the more modern Nissan radio, which it better have, but I really like it. It works well. Android Auto works okay, but you know, I've had some issues to where I'm driving along and my music could cut out for a second in Android Auto and then come back, which is kind of weird, but besides that, it's okay. It works pretty well. And I think that I kind of like the design, kind of the floating screen look here. It kind of makes it so like the infotainment screen is kind of more in your eye line versus having to kind of look down and search down low. Also, I'm noticing on a lot of Nissan products, they're moving their push button starter down to up here by the shifter, which I really like, from the dash down to the center console, and I really like that. It kind of makes it easier. It gives you like a sportier feel when you drive the vehicle. And then down there you got your USB type A and type C and aux jack and your typical 12-volt cigarette lighter type thing there. And let's take a look at the seats here. The seats are really nice in this new Altima. They're like a perforated leather, and they feel really nice. They're very comfortable. Nissan has been making comfortable seats in the Altima since the last generation that came out back in 2013, and they have continued that for this new model. One thing I was going to say too about the front here, if you look here, you notice the dash sits a little bit under kind of where the hood is, and I've noticed that a lot of cars are doing that to make the car feel like a little bit, make the dash a little bit lower so you can see over it easier, so you can kind of see the front a little bit easier. And I've been driving this car for about 3 days now, and I've noticed it kind of makes this car way easier to drive than if it was a little bit higher than this, and I like it quite a bit. Really cool. Nissan added some really cool vents on this car to where if you look at the little tab there, if you click it all the way to the left, it closes the vent. All the way to the right, it opens it up, and anywhere between or whatever. I think that's pretty cool instead of having the traditional slidey things on the side. I think that's a pretty cool vent design. But let's flip this camera around. As you can see, as you guys know, I'm a big dude. I'm over 6 feet tall, over 350 pounds, and this car is very comfortable for me. Like, I got plenty of headroom, plenty of shoulder room. There's some back seat space, even with the seat back for me. And honestly, like, this new Altima is much improved over the previous one, and honestly it had to be, just because, like, if it wasn't much improved over the previous one, people will buy the SUV, buy like the Rogue or the Murano over this car. And I definitely think that, you know, this car is definitely worth the look if you're not 100% sold on wanting to buy an SUV. So welcome to the driving portion of the 2019 Nissan Altima 2.5 SL. The first thing I noticed when I hop out on the road is how much quieter this is than the previous one. They've definitely taken a lot of like the Maxima characteristics and applied it into an Altima now, just not the looks, which is pretty awesome that you can get, you know, a more premium driving experience out of, you know, the $30,000 vehicle versus having to step up to like the, you know, $35,000-$40,000 Maxima, which I think is pretty awesome. Another thing I noticed is this car is a lot roomier than the previous one. I talked about kind of the exterior being bigger than the previous model. It's also significantly bigger on the interior also. And I think that it just kind of goes to the simple fact that a lot of people are buying SUVs now, and if you are buying a sedan, you want to get a lot for the money, and so that means you gotta, honestly, it has to have more space in the interior, which I definitely can attest to, because you guys know I'm a big dude and I'm pretty comfortable in this car. I don't gotta lean the seat back super far. Like, I got plenty of headroom, plenty of shoulder room, like plenty of room, like underneath the steering wheel, like it doesn't, like, hit on my thighs or the gut or nothing like that, which is pretty nice. And that I still can carry rear seat passengers even with me driving. And I can't say that that's not very true about all the cars that I drive, like in this class. But this Altima is pretty good. This car drives extremely smooth. Like, it's so smooth on the road. Like, on the highway, this car, you barely know how fast you're going in this car. Like, if you don't look down and kind of look at what you're doing, you can get into some pretty high speeds without even noticing, which is pretty dangerous, but also is a great trait for a car like this to have. It makes this car a great road trip car. With this car getting 38, 39 on the highway or so, and having a pretty big gas tank, you can get some great range out of this vehicle if you're driving pretty efficiently on the road. And like, the Altima has always been like that, but Nissan has just expanded that quite a bit more with this new generation. So the power is pretty good. Like, honestly, I don't think you need to get the turbo motor. I think the regular 2.5 liter one is pretty good, and I'm definitely probably gonna drive an all-wheel drive one in the future to kind of see how that handles in the weather. But this regular front-wheel drive one is pretty comfortable. It does handle kind of floaty and boaty, but this, like I said before, this is not a sports car, not intended to be a sports car. It's a comfortable daily driver, highway cruiser, and that's what this vehicle kind of is good at, and I can attest to, like, this vehicle is excellent at doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the pilot assist control. So basically, it's Nissan's like adaptive cruise control system that also steers for you. So I'm going to go ahead. If you heard that beep, that means the car is steering itself and it's doing everything for me. So I'm not really doing much here. So I'm just locked onto this car that's in front of me at one car length. And if the faster that car goes in front of me, as you can see here, the steering wheel's moving and I'm not doing anything. That's pretty insane that a $30,000 car does that now. But the car does kind of sense things like hills and overpasses and things like that when you're on the highway, and it will kind of tell you to take over from there, just because I believe the system is not that comfortable with steering around those types of obstacles. So the car doesn't seem like it's very comfortable with steering around those type of things, but for the most part, the system works very well, and I'm glad Nissan is putting that on a lot of their cars now. It kind of just makes the driving experience, like on the highway or in the city, just that much more relaxing and that much more stress-free. And honestly, like, I do kind of like self-driving cars, because on the highway, sometimes when you're driving on the highway, it's quite boring, and I'm glad that, a lot of cars are starting to put those type of features into their vehicles, even at the lower end. So, should you buy my thing is to, like, I know there's still a lot of 2018 Altimas out there, because I'm going to put this video out sometime in January. There's a lot of 2018 Nissan Altimas out there for sale, and I'm guessing a lot of dealerships are really heavily discounting them. And should you think, like, should you go for the 18 or step up to this 19? Honestly, I know I say honestly a lot, but this car is so much better than the previous one. You should not even think about buying the previous Altima. You should definitely, if you're looking at an Altima, you should definitely go up to this new one. And I think that, if I was in the market for a car like this definitely would be a strong contender for me to get versus buying some of the other cars. Like, I am a huge fan of the new Camry. I haven't driven the new car, which I still kind of need to do that. But I like the new Camry. I like the Hyundai Sonata. I like the Kia Optima. But I think this is kind of one of the better cars in the class now, just based on the price point, the looks, the features that you get, and all the safety equipment that you get kind of for the $30,000 price point. I believe I don't believe the Toyota has this type of, I know Toyotas have adaptive cruise control, but I don't think Toyotas have the type of cruise control with stop and go traffic feature at the $30,000 price point. I don't think Honda does either. I'll do a little more research and then I'll put in kind of a lower thirds if they do or not, but I don't believe they do. And honestly, if you are in the market for a new Altima, if you're in the market for a new midsize sedan, you should definitely take a look at the 2019 Nissan Altima.